Hello. In today's video, we're going to have a look at where you get started, how to make a start on actually doing some content design, particularly on doing the research you need to find out what your user needs are. Now, I know that from Alistair, you've already heard a bit about how to do user needs, how to write user needs. And in the other videos in this series by John Gibbons, he's talking about accessibility. So I'm not going to talk much about either of those two things. Instead, I'm going to focus a bit on the research, and then in the next few videos, I'm going to talk about writing. A good place to start with your content design is with any data that you've already got. If you've already got a website, hopefully there is some kind of statistics package attached to it. Now, these packages come in a million different flavors. Some of them are better than others. Some of them tell you more information and some of them tell you less. Some of them cost money and some don't. Hopefully there is something that you can use, and in most cases I would imagine you've already been looking at it. But have you been looking at it to ask yourself questions in order to understand what user needs are? Because every little statistic in your data tells you a tiny story, and the kinds of things that you want to be looking out for in order to start doing content design are things like this. What are the pages that behave in these ways, that stand out in some way or another from the other pages in the stats? Are there pages that everybody visits that aren't the homepage? Are there pages that nobody visits? Are there pages where people run away screaming really quickly, or pages where people linger for a long time? What makes them behave in these ways? What makes someone linger on a web page? Is it because there's a lot of words to read and so they're spending a few minutes reading every one? Or is it because there's a step in a process there and people are getting stuck? And so maybe they're actually leaving that tab open while they go to another tab in their browser and do something else. All of these questions are things that can make you think about crafting your user needs and coming up with some content design strategies to meet those needs. It's worth keeping in mind that user research and content design are not things that are done well by one person working alone. If you possibly can, try to assemble a small team. Just a couple of people is better than one. 3 or 4 people would be great to spread the load and spread the burden, and particularly to share thoughts and ideas from their brains as they go along. And of course, the burden increases when you're talking to users, and talking to users is the really important bit. Now, I know in a pandemic that is so much harder, but in an ideal circumstance when there isn't a pandemic, when we can meet people face to face, you might try something like this. Gather some real users in a room, stick your website on a computer and get people talking about it. But you can also do work like this remotely. You can set up a video call, ask your participant to share their screen and to talk through their thoughts as they navigate their way around your website. And while they're talking, you and your team members are making lots and lots of notes. Because what you want to encourage your users to do is to speak their brains, to tell the story of what they're thinking while they use your website. One way you can do this is by giving them simple tasks to achieve, like can you find the date of our next event? Or can you find out how to sign up for our mailing list? Or what did we say in our blog post that we published back in January? Tasks like that you can give to a user and then just see what they do. It doesn't matter if they don't succeed in meeting the task. What matters most is watching what steps they take and listening to what thoughts they describe while they're doing it. Now, it's best, of course, to talk to as many users as you can. Obviously, again, there's a pandemic. I know it's really hard. But talking to a lot of users, or as many as you possibly can find, is going to be beneficial for you in the long run, because you're not really wanting to pay attention to the thoughts and opinions of one user or 1 or 2 users. Ideally, you want to talk to many of them so that you can look for the common threads and the common themes, because those are things, just like the data in your stats package, hopefully, if you've got access to one, those are things that you can use to help you pull together a to-do list. And I'd suggest keep your to-do list short to start with. Once you've found a long list of things that people are struggling with or pages that look like they could use some work, try to prioritize that list. Put at the top of the list the things, the changes you could make, the content you could design that would make the most difference to the most people. Finally, there's some useful resources for you out there. There's this article by the Government Digital Service or someone in the civil service about doing user research in a pandemic. It has some useful tips for doing user research remotely. And here's another one. This is general guidance from the Government Digital Service about user research in general. This is aimed at big teams with big budgets. So not all of this will necessarily apply to you, but there are definitely some useful tips in here for anybody who's doing any kind of user research. We will share those links to those web pages separately so that you can access them. So hopefully that's given you a good start, and hopefully it means that you can avoid this. You know that thing where you're designing a website as a team or as an organization, and you end up getting to the point where some people, often senior people, are saying nonsense like this. They're talking about the visual design of the website before anybody's actually thought of meeting any user needs or designing any content. Hopefully doing this research and doing a bit of content design helps you avoid situations where you've got senior people asking to make the button a bit bluer. Okay, that's just a very, very high level introduction. Don't forget to get hold of Sarah's book if you can. In the next few videos, I'm going to be talking about specific techniques for writing content. I know not all content is words, but writing words is my speciality, and I'm going to give you some tips for ways to write well and edit well as a team. Thanks for watching. See you next time.